I will be turning 25 this year. So far, no wife, no kids, a few close friends, just over 1,000 followers across all socials, and a phone that hasn't rung for something real in weeks. Not a call that mattered, not the kind where someone says, "Where are you?" "I'm outside." Just notifications, endless, weightless noise. And I keep thinking about this phrase I've heard more times than I can count growing up. Money can't buy happiness. I used to believe that. Used to repeat it like it made me morally superior for not having any. Like I had figured something out early. But the older I get, the more I think that sentence was designed to calm people down. Like something you tell a kid when you don't want them asking too many questions. Then it started to feel incomplete. Not wrong. Just said from a very comfortable place. Because money might not buy happiness, but it buys you breathing room. And breathing room changes everything. It's the difference between living and constantly bracing, between choosing and reacting, between a problem and a crisis. A few years ago, right after high school, I lost my first real job. At first, it just felt like income disappearing. But then something quieter happened, something I didn't expect. I stopped getting invited out. At first, it was subtle. "I'm trying to save. I'll catch you guys next time." Everyone said they understood, and I think they did. But after a while, they stopped asking. Not out of cruelty, just convenience. Because it's easier to include people who can move at the same pace as you. Money didn't just change what I could do. It changed where I could exist. And slowly, I started fading from rooms I used to belong in. That's when I noticed something uncomfortable. A lot of love only works when you're convenient, when you're fun, when you're stable, when you're easy to carry, when you don't interrupt the rhythm of other people's lives. I used to think family was different. Blood, unconditional, built-in safety net. Until I watched my cousin go through a breakup at 27. He moved back home. Same house he grew up in, same room, but it didn't feel the same. His dad gave him 6 months. 6 months to fix everything. 6 months to stop being inconvenient. And everyone treated that like it made sense. We call it tough love, but sometimes it's just conditional presence. That's when a question started sitting with me, quietly, uncomfortably. If I fell apart tomorrow, really fell apart, who would actually sit in it with me? Not text, not react, not check in between things. Sit there in the silence, without trying to fix it, without checking the time, without needing me to be okay quickly. Because here's something I don't think we say enough. Most of our friendships are built on shared convenience. Same school, same job, same routine, same environment. Take away the setting, and you start to see what was actually holding it together. I tested it once. Not intentionally. I just stopped. Stopped initiating. Stopped planning. Stopped being the one who kept things moving. I told myself I was just busy. Weeks passed, then months. The group chat stayed active. Memes. Inside jokes. Plans I wasn't part of. And no one reached out. Not because they didn't care, but because I wasn't actively maintaining my role. That's when it hit me. Maybe I wasn't loved. Maybe I was just useful. Useful for lifting the mood. Useful for being the emotionally stable one. And when I went quiet, the system adjusted. And that realization, it does something to you. Because at my age, I believe I'm still young enough to want belonging, but old enough to start seeing the mechanics behind it. We call ourselves the most connected generation in history. We can reach anyone around the world, instantly. We send voice notes at 2 a.m. We track each other's locations. We know what people are doing without ever asking. And yet, I've never felt this surrounded and this alone. Because what we have now isn't connection, it's access. And access looks a lot like closeness. Until you need something real. A birthday now is 40 Instagram stories and 2 actual conversations. Support is, you got this, bro. Grief is a caption. Breakups are content. And somehow we've convinced ourselves that being seen is the same as being held. But it's not. Because I saw the difference once. When my friend had surgery last year, do you know who showed up? Not the cousins who post family over everything. Not the friends who post motivational quotes about loyalty. It was his old neighbor. No blood relation, no obligation. He brought food, sat in the waiting room, didn't post about it, didn't announce it, just stayed. That's when something shifted. I started realizing that blood doesn't guarantee presence, history doesn't guarantee care, and shared DNA doesn't guarantee empathy. We've inherited this idea that love is automatic. But in reality, love is maintenance. And most people only maintain what benefits them. That's the ugly part. When you're thriving, people orbit you. When you're spiraling, they slowly reduce exposure. I've seen it with friendships after someone gets depressed. At first, we're here for you. 3 months later, you've changed. As if pain is a personality flaw. As if healing should be efficient. As if sadness is bad branding. Do not assume love will always be there. The love that is given for what you represent will leave when you cease to represent it. The love that is given for who you are, flawed, changing, imperfect, is the rarest currency. It must be cultivated with intention, like a garden in a lot everyone else has paved over. And honestly, I'm no saint either. There are people I've drifted from because they required more emotional energy than I wanted to give. That's the part that keeps me honest, because it's easy to critique the world, much harder to admit you're participating in it. We've all become efficient, high-functioning, curated, emotionally strategic. We network more than we bond. We collaborate more than we connect. We know how to be just enough for people, without giving too much. We ask, what do you do? Before we ask, how are you? Really? And if the answer to that second question is complicated, we start looking for an exit. This is the great modern poverty. It is not of the wallet, but of the spirit. It is a starvation of the soul in a marketplace full of empty, sugary calories. We are surrounded by feasts of connection, but we are eating ash. So what's real then? I've been thinking about that a lot. And I don't think real connection is loud. I think it's inconvenient. It comes unannounced. It costs something. Time, attention, comfort. It interrupts your plans. It asks more from you than you were planning to give. It starts with a brutal audit, recognizing the relationships in your life that are based on shared utility or mutual entertainment. These aren't bad. They're just weather dependent. Enjoy the sunshine, but don't mistake the patio for a foundation. Proceed with the conscious, often terrifying investment in vulnerability, without utility. This is showing up with your cracks visible, not as a manipulation, but as an invitation. It is saying, I am not okay, and seeing who leans in instead of away. It is being interested in someone else's unprofitable passion, their bird watching, their obscure history podcasts, their terrible pottery. Not to be charming, but to witness the shape of their soul. It culminates in the active daily building of your chosen family. It is looking at the friend who brought you soup when you had the flu. Not because they owed you, but because the thought of you sick and alone is unbearable to them. And recognizing, this is my sibling, the one who comes over when your place isn't clean, who hears something ugly in what you say, and doesn't judge you, the one who stays after everything ends, and helps you stack the chairs. It's the friend who drives over to you at midnight, because you sounded off on the phone. No questions, no speech, just, I'm outside. No transaction, no audience, no benefit, just presence. That's rare. And the older I get, the more I realize something simple. If you want that kind of connection, you have to be that kind of presence. In a world that screams at us to acquire, to consume, to optimize, the most radical act is to be still, to show up when it's not convenient, call when it's not strategic, stay when it would be easier to leave, offer without calculating, listen without preparing your response. Because maybe we really are the most connected, disconnected generation. But maybe that's not a life sentence. Maybe it's just a symptom of forgetting how to sit with each other without turning it into content. I don't think we are broken. We're just out of practice. We've confused visibility with intimacy, access with closeness, attention with care. And 2.5 decades into my life, I'm trying to unlearn that, trying to build something slower, something quieter, something that would survive unemployment, depression, failure, distance, time, the kind that don't require performance, the kind where I'm loved even when I'm not impressive. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be around people who just know my value before they know my name. And if that circle is small, so be it. I'd rather have 3 people who would help me move at 6 a.m. than 300 who would pray for me in the comments. We're not doomed. Not yet, at least. We're just hungry. Our hunger is the proof of the meal's possibility. And that means something real still exists. We just have to choose it. Deliberately. Again, and again, and again. Until connection feels human again. Wherever you are right now, driving, lying awake, or just sitting with your thoughts, I'm glad our paths crossed for a little while. Take care of your mind, guard your heart, and don't rush the questions that take a lifetime to answer. Until next time, peace be with you.